What happens when one of Hollywood's most adored actresses meets her equal in the most unexpected talk show host on television? Today, we're going into the intense argument that had everyone speaking when Julia Roberts sat down with the View panel and things went totally haywire. This is the story of how Joy Behar pushed America's darling too far, leading to one of the most shocking exits in daytime television history. Be sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments, because this story will leave you speechless. The studio lights were shining as Julia Roberts made her arrival onto the View set, her familiar grin lighting up the room as the audience burst into applause. She looked stunning in a flowing emerald dress that highlighted her famous red hair, waving nicely as she took her seat beside the panel of hosts. Whoopi Goldberg greeted her warmly, as did Sarah Haynes and Sunny Host. But there was something unusual about Joy Behar's attitude that morning. While the other hosts seemed truly happy to have Julia on the show, Joy sat back in her chair with a slight smirk, her eyes sparkling with what could only be described as trouble. "Julia, welcome back to the View." Whoopi began, her voice warm and inviting. "It's always such a joy to have you here with us." "Thank you so much for having me," Julia replied, her voice carrying that special laugh that had charmed audiences for decades. "I really like being here with you all. The vibe is always so wonderful." The conversation started nicely enough with Sarah asking about Julia's most recent film project and Sunny asking about her family life. Julia answered each question with grace and humor, sharing personal stories that had the audience laughing and the other hosts nodding in agreement. But Joy remained oddly quiet, watching Julia with an intensity that seemed almost like a hunter. "You know, Julia," Joy finally cut in, stopping Sarah mid-speech. "I've been watching your career for a long time and I have to ask, don't you ever get tired of playing the same kind of person over and over again?" The question hung there like a dark cloud, and the studio audience fell silent. Julia's smile flickered for just a moment before she regained her balance, letting out a small laugh. "I'm not sure what you mean, Joy," Julia responded carefully. "I've tried to take on a range of roles throughout my career." "Oh, come on," Joy pushed, leaning forward in her chair with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. "The pretty woman, the romantic main role, the girl next door with the big smile. It's the same thing, different movie. Don't you think audiences should get more from someone with your supposed talent?" Whoopi shifted uneasily in her seat, clearly feeling the tension building. "Joy, I think Julia has shown amazing variety in her films." She tried to interrupt, but Joy wasn't finished. "I mean, let's be honest here. You've made a career out of being America's sweetheart. But what happens when America gets sick of sweet? What happens when they want something real?" Julia's body language changed, and for the first time since sitting down, her famous smile vanished completely. "I think my work speaks for itself, Joy. I've always tried to bring realness to every role I play." "Realness?" Joy laughed, but it was a sharp, harsh sound. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like you've been playing the same version of yourself for 30 years. The other hosts exchanged worried looks as the atmosphere in the studio grew more and more tense. Sunny tried to guide the conversation back to safer ground. "Julia, tell us about your future projects. I know you have some exciting things coming up." But Joy wasn't about to let the conversation change direction. "Actually, let's talk about something else," she said, her voice taking on a more forceful tone. "Let's talk about special favors. Let's talk about how easy it is to keep up a perfect image when you've never had to face real trouble." Julia's eyes flashed with something intense. "Excuse me, you heard me," Joy continued, seemingly braver by Julia's reaction. "You've lived a lucky life, Julia, born beautiful, found young, given success on a silver platter. What do you know about hardship? What do you know about the actual world that the rest of us live in?" The audience was totally silent now, realizing that they were witnessing something brand new. Julia took a deep breath, clearly trying to stay calm. "Joy, I think you're making some very unfair guesses about my life," Julia said, her voice steady but with an undercurrent. "You don't know anything about my path or the challenges I've faced." "Don't I?" Joy shot back. "Because from where I'm sitting, your biggest challenge has been choosing which huge house to live in." Whoopi finally stepped in more strongly. "Okay, Joy, I think we need to—" "No, Whoopi," Joy interrupted. "I think it's time someone asked the tough questions. I think it's time someone pointed out this whole perfect princess routine for what it really is, a carefully planned lie." Julia's face had gone pale, but her voice remained steady. "I've never pretended to be perfect, Joy. I've been honest about my mistakes and my growth as a person." "Have you though?" Joy challenged. "Or have you just fed the public the clean version of your life that your press people approved? When was the last time you showed us the true Julia Roberts, not the made-up product?" The tension in the room was now easy to feel. Camera operators changed their positions, sensing that they might be capturing television history. The other host sat motionless, unsure how to step into what was rapidly becoming a personal attack disguised as an interview. "I think there's been a mistake," Julia said, her voice beginning to show signs of stress. "I came here today to talk about my work and connect with your audience, not to be personally attacked." Joy leaned back in her chair with satisfaction, clearly liking the discomfort she was causing. "Oh, is that what this is, an attack? I thought this was just honest talk. Isn't that what talk shows are meant to be, about honesty?" "There's a difference between honesty and being mean, Joy," Julia replied, her self-control finally beginning to crack. "There's a difference between asking tough questions and deliberately trying to hurt someone." Hurt someone. Joy laughed again. That same harsh sound that was beginning to annoy everyone. Sweetie, if a few real observations hurt your feelings, maybe you're not as strong as you pretend to be. The words hung there like a slap, and Julia's face turned red. For a moment the entire studio seemed to stop breathing, waiting to see how America's sweetheart would reply to such a direct insult. Strong, Julia repeated slowly, her voice dropping to a dangerously low level. You want to talk about strength, Joy? Let me tell you something about strength. Strength is sitting here and listening to you tear me down for no reason other than your own amusement. Strength is not responding to your cruelty with cruelty of my own. Joy's eyes lit up with mean pleasure. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. There's that fire I knew was hiding under all that sweetness and light. Tell me, Julia, how does it feel to finally stop the act? This isn't an act, Julia said, her voice rising slightly. This is me trying to keep some self-respect in the face of your uncalled for aggression. Uncalled for, Joy scoffed. Everything I've said today has been fair game. You're a public person, sweetheart. You put yourself out there, you open yourself up to being judged. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to hide under the table. Maybe we should take a quick commercial break, she suggested feebly. No breaks, Joy declared, waving her hand as if it didn't matter. We're just getting started, Julia. Let's talk about your marriages. 3 marriages, was it? That's not exactly the perfect love story image you like to show, is it? The audience gasped audibly and Whoopi's face showed pure shock. Joy. That's totally inappropriate, she said firmly. Is it? Joy challenged. She talks about love and relationships in every interview. Makes movies about finding your perfect match, but her personal record tells a different story, doesn't it? Julia's hands were shaking easily now. Whether from anger or hurt, it was impossible to know. My personal relationships are only that, personal. They have nothing to do with why I'm here today. But they have everything to do with who you are. Joy pressed without stopping. They show the difference between the image and the truth. They show that maybe, just maybe, you're not the relationship guru you pretend to be in all those romantic comedies. I have never pretended to be an expert on anything, Julia said through clenched teeth. I'm an actress. I play characters, that's my job. Joy laughed that harsh laugh again. Right, you play characters, but the problem is you never stop playing them, do you? Even now, even here, you're still putting on a show. When do we get to meet the real Julia Roberts? You want real? Julia's voice was shaking with barely held back feeling. You want to see something real? This is real, Joy. This hurt you're causing, this shame you're putting me through in front of millions of people, this is real. Good, Joy said with satisfaction. Finally, some truthfulness. Finally, some real feeling instead of that planned charm you usually give us. Sunny host looked shocked. Joy, I don't understand what you're trying to do here. Julia is our guest. Our guest who's been lying to the public for decades. Joy shot back. Our guest who's built a career on being not genuine. Not genuine. Julia's voice cracked on the word. You think I'm not genuine? You think everything I've worked for, everything I've done is not genuine? I think you're a product, Joy said coldly. I think you're a carefully made brand designed to sell movie tickets and magazine covers. I think the true Julia Roberts, whoever that may be, got lost a long time ago. The meanness in Joy's voice was clear now, and even the camera operators looked uncomfortable. Julia stared at her for a long moment, tears beginning to well up in her eyes. You know what, Joy? Julia said quietly. You're right about one thing. There is a real Julia Roberts underneath all of this. And that real person is telling me that I don't have to sit here and listen to this bad treatment. Bad treatment? Joy mocked. Asking tough questions is bad treatment now. No, Julia said, standing up from her chair, but deliberately trying to make someone feel ashamed. Deliberately trying to make them feel small and worthless. That's bad treatment and I won't stand for it. Not from you, not from anyone. Joy's expression changed a little, as if she was just beginning to see she might have gone too far. Oh, come on, Julia, don't be so dramatic, sit down. We're just having a conversation. This isn't a conversation, Julia said firmly. This is a personal attack. This is you using your platform to bully someone, and I refuse to take part in it any longer. The other hosts looked panicked. Whoopi stood up as well, trying to save the situation. Julia, we can sort this out. But Julia was already reaching for her microphone, preparing to remove it. No, Whoopi, we can't sort this out. Some things can't be fixed with saying sorry or explanations. Some things are just wrong. Joy, perhaps sensing that she was losing control of the situation, tried a different approach. Look, Julia, if I hurt your feelings, that wasn't what I meant to do. I was just trying to have an honest discussion. Julia turned to face her directly, and the pain in her eyes was obvious to everyone in the studio. Your intention, Joy, everything about this has been planned. Every question, every insult, every attempt to make me look silly or not real or whatever it is you think I am. You came into this with a plan, and that plan was to bring me down. That's not true, Joy protested. But her voice lacked belief. Isn't it? Julia challenged. Then tell me why every single thing you've said to me has been meant to hurt. Tell me why you've ignored every attempt the other hosts have made to move this conversation in a more positive direction. Tell me why you seem to be enjoying my discomfort so much. Joy fell silent for a moment, and for the first time since the interview began she looked unsure. The studio audience was totally quiet, paying close attention to every word of this never-before-seen argument. Joy finally said weakly, "It's my job to ask hard questions. No, Julia said with quiet intensity. You're not a journalist right now, Joy, you're a bully, and I've spent too many years of my life dealing with bullies to sit here and let you continue. The word bully seemed to hit Joy like a physical strike. Her face turned red, and for the first time since the interview began, she looked truly shaken. The studio remained dead silent as the two women stared at each other across the table. The tension so strong it was almost suffocating. I am not a bully, Joy said, her voice defensive and angry. I've been doing this job for years and I've never been called a bully. Then maybe it's time someone told you the truth, Julia replied, her voice steady despite the tears that were still close to falling. Maybe it's time someone pointed out that there's a difference between being challenging and being cruel. Joy's jaw tightened. You want to talk about cruel? Let's talk about how mean it is to lie to millions of people. Let's talk about how mean it is to present yourself as something you're not. And what exactly am I pretending to be? Julia demanded. What awful lie am I telling by trying to bring joy to people through my work? You're pretending to be perfect? Joy shot back. You're pretending to have all the solutions. To be this source of light and happiness when real people are struggling with real problems. Julia shook her head in disbelief. I have never said I was perfect. I have never said I had all the solutions. All I've ever tried to do is my job, which is to entertain people, and maybe make them smile for a couple of hours. But that's the problem, Joy pressed on, seemingly unable to stop herself now. You make it look so easy. You make it seem like happiness is just a choice, like success is just about having a nice smile and a good outlook. And that bothers you, Julia asked, real confusion in her voice. The fact that I try to stay positive bothers you. It bothers me because it's not real, Joy exploded. Life isn't a romantic comedy, Julia. Life is hard and messy and disappointing. And when you go around pretending otherwise, you're hurting everyone who's struggling. The other host sat frozen, watching this very personal argument unfold. Whoopi looked like she was trying to figure out how to end this without making things worse. While Sarah and Sunny appeared truly upset by what they were witnessing. Julia was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again her voice was soft but filled with a strength that hadn't been there before. You know what, Joy? You're right about one thing. Life is hard. Life is messy. Life is full of disappointment and pain and heartbreak. Joy looked surprised by this admission, as if she hadn't expected Julia to agree with anything she said. But you know what else life is? Julia continued, her voice growing louder. Life is also beautiful. Life is full of moments of pure joy and love and wonder, and if my work, if my so-called fake positivity, helps even one person remember that, then I'm proud of what I do. That's just childish, Joy muttered. But she sounded less certain now. No, Julia said firmly. What's childish is thinking that tearing other people down makes you more real. What's childish is believing that being negative is somehow more honest than hope. Joy's face was getting redder by the minute. Don't you dare preach to me about being real. Don't you dare stand there and act like you're better than me. I'm not acting like I'm better than anyone, Julia said, beginning to unclip her microphone. But I am choosing not to be a part of whatever this is anymore. What this is, Joy said meanly, is the truth. This is what happens when someone finally points out your act. Julia paused in removing her microphone and looked directly at Joy. You want to know what the truth is, Joy? The truth is that you've just spent the last 20 minutes trying to destroy someone for no reason other than your own personal satisfaction. The truth is that you've used your platform not to share or entertain or inspire, but to hurt. I was doing my job, Joy insisted, but her voice was beginning to crack. Your job is to interview guests, not to attack them, Julia said. Your job is to create interesting television, not to make people who were kind enough to come on your show feel ashamed. Whoopi finally spoke up. Julia, please. Let's all just take a moment here. Maybe we can— No, Whoopi, Julia interrupted gently but firmly. Some things can't be fixed. Some behaviors can't be excused. I came here today trusting in good intentions, expecting to have a pleasant conversation about my work and my life. Instead, I was tricked by someone who seems to enjoy other people's pain. Joy stood up quickly, her chair scraping against the floor. You know what? Fine, run away. That's what people like you do when things get difficult, isn't it? Julia turned back to face Joy one final time, and there was something almost sad in her expression. No, Joy, people like me choose not to engage with meanness. People like me choose not to reward bad behavior with our presence. Bad behavior. Joy was almost shouting now. I was asking valid questions about a public figure who makes millions of dollars pretending to be America's sweetheart. And there it is, Julia said quietly. You said it yourself. You think I'm pretending. You think everything about me is a show. And maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Joy's mouth opened and closed several times as if she was trying to find words that wouldn't come. The studio audience remained totally silent, focused on this unprecedented showing of raw emotion and conflict. Julia began walking toward the edge of the set, her microphone now completely off. For what it's worth, Joy, I hope someday you figure out why you felt the need to do this. I hope you figure out what you were really trying to achieve. Don't you walk away from me, Joy called after her. We're not finished here. Julia paused at the edge of the set and turned back one last time. Yes, we are, she said simply. We're totally finished. And with that, Julia Roberts walked off the View set, leaving behind a shocked studio audience, a panel of stunned hosts, and one very angry Joy Behar, who was still standing at the table. breathing heavily and looking like she couldn't quite believe what had just happened. The cameras continued recording as Joy slowly dropped back into her chair, the reality of the situation finally beginning to set in. She had pushed one of Hollywood's biggest stars too far, and now she was left to face the results of her actions in front of millions of viewers. Whoopi cleared her throat and looked directly into the camera. "We'll be right back after this break," she said, but her voice lacked its usual warmth and confidence. The damage was done, and everyone in that studio knew they had just witnessed something that would be talked about for years to come. As the show cut to commercial, the audience remained in their seats, buzzing with excitement and disbelief about what they had just witnessed. They had come expecting a regular celebrity interview, but instead they had seen one of the most dramatic arguments in daytime television history. What did you think about this amazing showdown? Do you believe Joy Behar went too far, or was she just doing her job as an interviewer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more intense celebrity moments that you won't see anywhere else.